Welcome to AGRIMINDS, the podcast where we explore the intersections of personal growth and professional success in the ag industry. I'm Casey Bowl, your host. Thank you for joining me as we dive in to the different strategies and insights that will help you level up your life and career. From mental health to leadership development, we're going to cover it all. So sit back and get ready to grow with AGRIMINDS. Hello and welcome to the AGRIMINDS podcast. I have an extra special guest with me today, Lauren Bondy. She is going to be one of the speakers at the AGRIMINDS Summit. And I thought, you know what? I've got to have her on the podcast to give a little bit of a glimpse of what she's going to be bringing to the summit, as well as just hear her story. So Lauren, welcome to the AGRIMINDS podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, me too. If people have never met you, they don't follow you online, they've never even heard of you before, can you give a little bit of background? Who are you? Where are you from? What do you do?
Yeah. So I'm Lauren Bondy. I am a rural mom of 3 daughters. I live in Missouri on our small family farm with my husband, Josh. We have been married for 13 years. He is also an FFA instructor and agriculture teacher. So ag is definitely deeply rooted in our family. We show sheep. That is something new for me. I never grew up in 4-H, but we have fully dived into that world. We also have a small peach orchard, and I do work full time off the farm. We have a family-owned business. We do Medicaid billing for Missouri schools on the side as well. But for a long time, I was doing all the right things on paper. I had the good life. I had the loving, supportive husband. I have 3 beautiful, healthy daughters. They are aged 12, 9, and 4 right now, so definitely keep us busy. And I had work I was really, really grateful for, but internally, I was constantly chasing this belief that I had to earn my worth by doing more, by holding everything together, and by asking for very little of myself. And that belief showed up everywhere in my self-talk, in how hard I pushed, and in how often I told myself I should just be grateful for what I had and not want anything more. A few years ago, and this is kind of where Casey and I started connecting, I had the really honest realization that I wasn't burnt out because I was doing too much. I was burnt out because I was trying to prove something that was never meant to be proved. And that shift has changed how I lead, how I parent, how I show up. And it eventually led me to the work that I now get to do today as a community builder, a speaker, and a leadership mentor for individuals in agriculture, but particularly women over the last 7 years.
Wow. That something you just said gave me chills around I'm not burnt out because I'm doing too much. I'm burnt out because maybe I'm chasing something that I shouldn't be chasing. And I think the majority of that comes around just proving something, whether it's to yourself or to your family or to your community or to your boss, whatever it is. And so that's why I'm really excited for the workshop that you're going to be doing at the summit. Will you give people a little bit of a glimpse as to what you're going to be talking about at the summit? And then we can kind of just dive into why this whole thing is even important to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am really excited to bring one of my keynotes to the summit, as well as, again, like Casey said, workshopping with you guys. This is not going to be a me up there talking. This is very hands-on. I love everything Casey's creating with AgriMinds because it's truly with that in mind, right? So we're going to be talking about being already worthy, and really my whole platform and my experience in life has led from, worth is not the finish line, it's a starting line. So we're really going to unpack a lot of those things that we've been taught and raised, especially in the agriculture industry, that you have to earn your worth and your productivity results in your worth. We're going to talk about belief, we're going to talk about worthiness, and we're going to talk about confidence, and how when you show up with those 3 things, everything in your life changes and you go from that burnout and hustle mode to really living in alignment while still being very productive. I think that's something that sometimes when we talk about mindset and we talk about worthiness and we talk about all of that, that people think they don't push, they're not productive. And that's definitely not what it is. And I know Casey's a very driven businesswoman as well. And so we're going to take all those 3 things, and we're really going to unpack some of those limiting beliefs that we have, and the societal norms that have been put on us as, leaders in agriculture that need to be broken down.
Oh, that's so good. And I know that, Lauren, a lot of the people that you work with are women and primarily probably moms or working parents, right? But the
Yes,
audience at the summit is going to be both men and women. We've got farmers, ranchers, business owners, managers, CEOs, as well as some entry level positions. I mean, we've got some people that are just starting their careers, and the stuff that you're talking about is applicable to everybody. But I would love to hear a little bit more about your story. And then also, if we could tap into why this is important for everybody, because I think, and maybe this is just an assumption I have, but I'd love to hear your take too. When we start talking about worthiness or we start talking about belief in ourselves, I feel like that's a feminine conversation, right? Like, I feel like most men probably aren't like, yeah, I want to go to a worthy workshop, or like, I want to listen in on somebody talking about like believing in myself. I know for a fact that men think it, because I have a lot of one-on-one coaching clients who are manly men who are like, I'm having low self-confidence. I feel like I'm an imposter. I'm not showing up fully, but they don't know how to, one, verbalize it, two, the buzzwords that come with it, like I said, may detour them from having these conversations, because it may look like, oh, that's a female's conversation. But can we talk a little bit about like where you got to be at this point? Like, what happened in your life that got you to this point, but then also talking about some of the stigmas that come with it and how this will help everybody in the room, not just necessarily women, but how this can help men too.
absolutely. And so I have a very rich history in agriculture. So my family is a third generation farm. So my grandpa, my dad, my uncle, now my brother is back on that farm. So that hard work and that hustle and that grit, and I grew up around that. My husband also from his side, his family's a century farm, and the cattle as well. And if anyone knows agriculture education instructors and teachers, much of the work that I do, Josh and I do together. And it's been so unique seeing it from his perspective, not just as a male leader in the agriculture world, but also as an educator and shaping the future and the youth, and seeing the lessons that, we kind of create together as he applies that in his leadership classes and seeing them take root. But, yeah, a little bit about me. So again, I live in the town that I grew up in, which I swore I would never do. So, growing up, I'm like, I'm going to get as far away from Paris, Missouri as possible. God definitely had different plans for me in that realm. So, graduated high school, went to college. I went to the University of Missouri. I have a degree in agriculture education leadership, which at the time, it's like, what am I gonna do with that? And I look back now and I was like, every single thing I do in my life is tied exactly to what I did there. I just didn't know at that point, right? I came out, I had a few jobs that I came out, and then I married my husband Josh, and he was actually teaching in the town that I grew up in. And so we came back here and started raising our family. I got married at 21. I was very young and graduated college in 3 years because I was like, I'm gonna do the things. I am going to get the straight A's. I'm going to graduate it with honors. I'm going to like get done as early as can, because at that point I was very one-minded that I want to get married, have babies, and have the life. And we did that. I got married. My husband was pushing really hard in his career. They were doing some amazing things at the chapter. I came back. I started my job, and we had two kids in 3.5 years. And there was one particular moment. I had Adeline was 2.5, was almost three, I guess was almost three because this was in October. And Harper, my middle, was 6 months old. And I had family photos taken. And it was the first time we'd ever had photos taken on our land. And it was a pond bank, and the pasture was behind it. At this point, we didn't have any sheep, but it was there. And I got those pictures back. And when I looked at that photo from the outside, it looked perfect. And I broke down because what I saw in those photos was a mom who was depressed and she was anxious. She was chasing everyone else's version of success. I didn't have the confidence in myself to even know what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go. I had the life, and why wasn't I grateful for that? Why wasn't I just over thrilled? And that was probably the first moment. that kind of light bulb went off and like, it doesn't have to be this way. And even though, and I felt alone for a long time, it's there has to be other people feeling like this. There has to be other women and leaders in rural America who are like, I did the things. I checked all the boxes and I got here and it doesn't feel like where I'm supposed to be. And that moment sent me on one of my first journeys of believing I was worthy of more. And that really catapulted, that was almost 8 years ago. It kind of catapulted my entire journey and led me down the road that I'm at now and to help others unveil that, you're not ungrateful. You're not, so often in rural America, where, if we go against the norms, that's kind of looked down on. And nothing's wrong with you. You're not broken. You're not behind. You are becoming and you're learning. And I feel as I parent my daughters, I'm learning to reparent myself. And, it's a journey. And they say I look at my oldest, Adeline, and she is very much a rule follower. She wants to do everything right. And when I started seeing those tendencies pop up, and I know Casey's a mom too, you kind of like, it reflects back on you and makes you do some inner work. And that's really when it was like, ooh, okay, God, I see what we're doing here. And it's time to course correct.
I think we've all been there at some point where we've like, I know for me, I've taken family pictures and I look at myself and I crop out as much as I can, or I stand behind my kid because I don't love the way that I'm showing up in these pictures physically. And I know that that's something I struggle with all the time. But same thing mentally. And I love how you're like, I didn't like who I was showing up mentally either. And when you get that mirror image from your children of like, man, I hate to even admit this on the podcast, but I think that my audience knows like I will be vulnerable and share stuff and it's out there for the world to hear. But here we are. There are things that my children do that I'm like, oh, they learned that from me. Sometimes it's wonderful. Manners, etiquette, how to be socially appropriate, and helping other people, asking questions, making sure people don't feel left out, like just a social awareness, right? Like I feel like my kids learn that from my husband and I. And then there are some things where, for example, my 3-year old will go, "Ah, damn it." And I'm like, "Oh, I know where that came from." It's like they are watching, they are listening, and they are picking up everything. They are soaking up everything. And something we talk about inside of the AgriMinds Live group coaching program is mindset and how everything that we know, think, and believe has been caught or taught. And so we've learned from our environment, whether that was from our parents or our siblings or coworkers or, anybody in society. Now social media is the big influence on that. But I think, something you mentioned about like your husband, like we're shaping the next generation. And what we're doing is teaching or, showing them what they're going to have caught or taught. And when you have that moment and you realize, oh gosh, I can either show up this way or I can show up that way. And my kids are learning that right now. It's a little bit of a gut punch, but thank God for those moments because that's what gives us that check-in. And it's what we do after that that really matters. And so what happened to you after you saw those pictures and you're like, I don't like who I'm showing up as? Like, what were some of the things that you started to do, the action that you took?
Yeah, I think the very first is I had to believe I was worthy before the end result. And worth is not the finish line, it's a starting line. And so, in that moment, looking at those pictures, I was like, okay, nothing changes if nothing changes, right? We
Mm.
know that about everything in life. We know that with our mindset. We know that with our career. We know that. I mean, we know that, right? And we have the peach orchard, right? We planted these trees. We planted them during COVID. Last summer was the first. So 5 years later, we finally had fruit. But if like you planted it and you didn't do anything with them or take care of them, nothing's going to come of it. And so it's at that point that it's like, my girls were little, and I'm like, if I want them to grow up with different beliefs about themselves on their worthiness, I've got to start in myself. And so now realizing like I am worthy of taking the time for me and, not selfishly, I am worthy of believing I'm worth more and stopping to silence those little glimmers that you get, that, many people are like the little nudges from God or those little thoughts of like, what if I could do this? What if this dream I have could become a reality and I could stop being
Mm,
scared of it? I think a big thing in that moment, though, honestly, is I realized that I was worthy of asking for help and stopping carrying it all. And I think in
mm,
agriculture, especially so often, we carry the burden on our shoulders of everything. We don't want to be an inconvenience. We don't want to be seen as weak. And this, especially for men, right? We don't want to be seen that we can't do it all. But that's not doing anyone a service, and at that point, I realized, like, no one knew I was drowning. Like, my husband didn't know, those closest to me didn't know. I was pretty isolated and alone, and I was just shielding it all, and what that was resulting in was, exhaustion. I thought I was burnt out, but I really was just unaligned in how I was living. I wasn't healthy, those habits were not serving me well, and so I put down the wall that I always have up and had up, and I said, "You know what? This is where I'm at, and I don't wanna feel like this, but I'm gonna need some help getting there." And so that was kind of that first
mm,
step, right, is admitting that maybe you're at a place that doesn't feel really good, and kinda getting that help and what it looked like, and for me, that was definitely with my spouse, and that was with Josh first and foremost, is just being honest with him. And the shift, that started from there. Casey knows this about me, but healthy habits started to be something that I really started to integrate. I do feel that to lead others, you have to lead yourself. And that does come down to really serving the body you're in. And that's not about a weight. And that's not about a jean size for sure. And I'll be one to admit, like I chased the scale for a long time. And guess what? I got to a certain point. I'm like, huh, doesn't make me feel worthy, does it? Like, no. And that's, behind anything, we can chase goals, we can chase promotions, we can chase whatever, but really taking care of yourself. And sometimes that looks like movement. Um, that looks like water for us. That looks like, laughing with friends and having a community around you and surrounding yourself. And what I love so much about AgriMinds and when Casey invited me to be a speaker there is like she's creating this place that you can go and you can fill that bucket. And you can't lead others unless you lead yourself, but you also can't lead yourself alone. And that's one
yeah.
of the core principles that I found in like believing you're worthy. You can do all the self talk, all the mindset, everything on your own. But if you don't have people supporting you and around you, and on those days that it gets really freaking hard, they say, like, hey, I see you. Like, you're worthy just because you are. You don't have to produce. Like, your production is not a result of your worth. I think it's really, really important.
Yeah, that's so good. And I participated in one of your challenges a couple of months ago, got introduced to some really amazing people that held me accountable throughout the challenge. And it was like, whoa, I've never even met you guys. Like, I have no idea what your face even looks like. But we got into a group chat and it's like every day, like, hey, how's your goal coming along? What are your roadblocks? What are your obstacles? Like, and it was just for a month, but just that 1 month, it was like, oh yeah, it was just enough of a reminder of like why I'm doing this. But I'll be honest with you, one of the things I struggle with is the deserving part. And I mean, I don't know where this comes from, but it's like, do I deserve that? Like, do I deserve to take a break? Like, did I do enough today? And I don't know, like I said, this is probably like a deep child trauma work that I need to go get resolved, but like I don't know if I do deserve that. And how do you combat that? And maybe you don't know, maybe you have a resource, I don't know, but it's like how do I talk myself into saying I do deserve, I am worthy, because a lot of the times it's like, am I though? Like I've not been the best person to my husband lately. I've screamed at my kids lately. I haven't been giving 100% to my job. I haven't been volunteering at my church like I used to. Like there's a lot of areas where I have been slacking. And so feeling worthy feels like a lie sometimes. How do you work through that?
I think it's a constant battle. I mean, that is a struggle that I hear over and over from everyone that I coach, and that's a struggle I have for myself. And I think, giving yourself grace in that you're worthy, not based on your productivity, but that also doesn't mean you're always going to excel at everything. Okay. And I say this all the time. I can be crushing my job. I can be crushing parenting. I can be crushing having a clean house. They're not all going to happen in the same week. They're absolutely not. I am leading, I'm in charge of, we go to a very small church. We have children from ages like 18 months to 18 in chart to be put in one Christmas program. I have like 15 of them. And it's like, okay, this week that's what I'm going to crush and everything else isn't going to happen. And I think it's giving ourselves that grace. It's knowing, and a lot, as I think, would I ever speak to the women in my life and the people in my life or my husband the way that I speak to myself? And I think when you really, at the end of the day, are like, would I just say those things I just said about myself to them out loud? And when the answer is no, that's that deep check, and that's some mental work that you've got to overcome. And I'm a full believer in, word before world. I start every day with scripture, and just rooting in that, because there for a long time I was having a really hard time finding my worth that wasn't through productivity. And it's been a switch. It's a switch that society doesn't tell us to slow down and to honor the things that are not productive. But when we start to do that, we start to see the things that we're actually excelling in.
Yeah.
If you make a list, of the things that you did today, like, guess what? Some days, if you just survive, that makes you worthy, and you have to know that. But I think it's an ongoing battle. And I think, again, it's just having those reminders and having a spouse or a partner or a coworker that you can lean on in those times, because we're not. There's many days that I'm like, am I a fraud? Like, I am talking about worth. And I'm over here like, man, that was not a good mom day today. That was not my best work.
Yeah, the mom guilt there. I mean, and I think you've touched on something here, like this little faith talk moment where it's like, is it biblical? And so I am a Christian. I have dedicated my life. I've been baptized, all the things, but I think I still do struggle with, like, I am a sinner. Am I actually worthy of this? And he says that I am. He's already paid the price, and I have to remember that. But gosh, that is the hardest thing of my life, is just remembering, like, he already paid the price for us. Everything else is like, just do your best, give yourself grace. Like, as long as you have good intentions behind things, it's like, I just don't feel like that's enough. Like, that doesn't cut it. It's like, this is the hardest thing of my life.
But I think I think you saying like that's hard. It just shows how much you do care and how much you're like, gosh, I do want to be my best self. I do want to be my best self. And you just have to know your best self looks different every single day. And again, and just give yourself that grace. And it's hard. And so I talked a lot about the beginning, kind of when that shift changed. But I want to talk about one more moment that kind of sent me down this worth path, if you will. I started the journey and like realizing I was worth at least investing in myself, and something needed to change, and didn't have to shoulder it all. I asked for help. I started to just live healthier and more confident, all those things. And then I went down a path of continuing to chase my worth through excelling in a career. For 5 years, I went all in, and I built a very successful career, online presence, was leading a team at the top, of our network at the time. And, last year, God took that all away, and it came down in a shift. But before that, it was about 6 months before it kind of all ended. I had earned a spot in a very highly coveted retreat, a leader retreat with the company. And I went, and, in my mind, when I got to that point, like, I was going to have made it. Like, that was going to be the end all be all. And I was going to be so happy. And I'll never forget sitting in the Orlando airport. We had been at Epcot that day, and like, it was late. I was getting ready to fly home. I was tired. Me and tired don't always mix. I usually cry when that happens. But I'm sitting there with my hood up. There was a older gentleman next to me, and he was very uncomfortable. And tears are just streaming down my face. I'm inhaling a bag of peanut M&Ms and a Prairie Farms chocolate milk, which is like not the epitome of health. But this is where I'm at mentally at this point. Because I'd gotten to that destination, and it like hit me like a brick wall that like I still didn't think I was worthy. Like, I'd gotten there, and I was like, I'm supposed to be happy. This is supposed to be it. And In that moment, I was like, I guess this chasing productivity is just going to lead to burnout. And it's not going to lead to me really being happy. It's not, I'm chasing everyone else's version of success, which was not aligned with who I was anymore. And I think for so many of us, we do that, right? We set the goals and we're like, once we get to this destination, once we achieve this, VP in the company, once we've created our own offering, once we have so many followers, if you're on Instagram, social media, once we have this much in the bank account or we lose this weight, it's going to be enough. And then you get there and you've worked so hard and you've been vision tunneled to it, that you kind of ignored everything else. And then you're like, well, crap, I'm here and it's not enough. And that awakening started happening again before the really big shifts in my life. And, it was definitely God saying, like, all right, your message and your purpose here is not to chase. Your purpose is to help others to get out of that. And stop relying on others' approval. And gosh, I can't express to you the weight that lifts when you finally realize, like, you don't have to earn anyone's approval. Like, your next door neighbor doesn't have to approve of you. Your family doesn't have to approve of you. You can go against what everyone expects you to do, and it's hard. It is hard. I think that's still probably one of the hardest challenges in my life is to be like, I'm taking a different path than was planned, or I'm breaking what was expected of me. But it is so freeing. And that's what I really pray that I bring when I step on that stage at the AGRIMINDS Summit. I'm able to sit around the tables and we're able to talk. This is not a 2-day event that we're going to talk at you. We're going to be with you and we're going to be in conversation. I can't wait to sit around those tables and hear your stories and be able to walk through that because, we've all had those moments. And I just want you to know that you're not alone. And you're worthy before you proved a thing, but you questioning it doesn't make you less than. And I have to tell myself that all the time too, right? This is a continual learning. It's a roller coaster of life, right? We're going to go up, we're going to be rocking it, we're going to go down, we're gonna be like, what happened? All that work for nothing, but it wasn't. It sure wasn't. So that was a big point about 2 years ago in my life, in the midst of the high, that I started to realize this is not it.
Yeah. Wow. That is so inspiring. And I mean, you are so right. Like, that's what the space at the summit is for. It's not, hey, everybody come in, listen to us talk at you, take notes, and then best of luck to you.
Yeah.
We have a lot of scheduled time to get real, right? Like, so not only are we going to be having each speaker go up and do like a keynote workshop style thing. I mean, it's going to be different for every speaker. Um, but you guys will have time to get up there and convey your message, learn a little, do a little. But then there's also going to be a panel later on where it's just, I think, is it like an hour and a half, I think, of where it's just like open conversation. And that's why I've made it a cap at 50 people, because I don't want it to be this giant room where nobody gets to say anything. Like, I feel like that's just enough people to have really good conversation, but it's also just enough people where if you don't feel comfortable having a light on you, you can still kind of like fall back into the crowd if you need to. I get it. This is brand new stuff for a lot of people. Like, these types of conversations, it may be the very first time you've ever stepped into a conversation like this before. And so I understand how emotional, how vulnerable, how awkward and embarrassing, and just all the things it can be. And that's why I say, like, there's going to be time and there's space for you to step away. If you need to go outside and go for a walk, there is a place for you to do that. If you want to go sit around a fire and rock in a rocking chair outside, you can go do that. If you want to come inside and network and meet everybody there, you can do that too. I mean, it's truly a really flexible event. But that's why I like it. There's not jam packed speaker after speaker after speaker. It is truly a space for you to come in, hear the message, process it, do something with that right then and there if you want to. And then if you want to go even deeper and raise your hand and say, hey, here's something personal I'm going through, there's a chance to ask those types of questions during the panel. And then also, every speaker will be there throughout the entire event. So if you need to have a one off conversation with Lauren and be like, but here's my unique story, then go off into a corner and have that unique story with Lauren. And, she's got a community outside of the AGRIMINDS Summit that you can plug at the end where it's just like, this is everything for the Made for More community, right? Like, I truly encourage people to find those groups because, like I tell people all the time that I coach, I also have a coach. Like, coaches need coaches. Everybody needs somebody to also be in their corner. That is a third party, neutral opinion that's not mentally, emotionally, physically, financially involved in what you're dumping on them. And so I always say, like, everybody needs their own people that, yes, I love my husband. Yes, I love my mom. And I call them all the time when I have problems. But sometimes I do get influenced by them in ways that we're biased. And I don't want that. I don't want you to influence me because of your experience or because you see a perspective. Like, I need a true outsider to maybe not know my demons, right? Like, not know my past and
Yes.
see me for who I am today and where I want to go. And so that's what the summit is about, is like truly looking at where you are now. Yes, considering what you've gone through, but where are you at now and where do you want to go with this? And so that's why I've like been very intentional with every single speaker and every single topic around, like, this is about moving forward and growth, intentional growth. And so I am very excited, and not that I want to do too many spoilers for the summit because I want people there and in experiencing this in person. But is there anything else that you want to share about the takeaway, what maybe a key tip or resource that you're planning on sharing with people at the summit?
Yeah, I have a few exciting things coming for the summit, but one that we're going to go through together is one that I facilitated many times for groups of women and men and everything with it. And like I said, at the root of it, we're gonna build your tree, and we're gonna talk about your rooted identity and how when the branches get heavy and the things that we load our branches with, and we're gonna walk through that. They might bend, they might snap, they might break, but those roots are gonna stay, and so if you leave the summit knowing, like, "These are my roots, and no matter what happens up here, no matter what roles I'm managing, no matter what stress is, like, I'm gonna be rooted in those truths," you're gonna be able to
Mhm.
tackle anything that comes after you. And that is one of the tools I'm bringing to summit with me that is gonna be really strong, and we're gonna start my session out with that because that is truly the foundation for everything that we're gonna do after.
Yeah, that'll be so good. And I feel like that will apply to everybody in the room, regardless of your age, your gender, your
Absolutely.
role, your season of life. And I
Yes.
think that's probably one of the questions I get all the time. I think that's why I'm overemphasizing that in this conversation, is that I feel like most people are like, oh, this is for women. I'm like, no, no, no. Majority of the
No.
attendees are going to be men. And the majority of these people are, I would say, late 30s to early 40s if I were to like average, but we've
Yeah.
got 24 to early 60s coming, both men and women all over the United States. And there are 100 different types of roles. I mean, it's not just one, it's not just for farmers, it's not just for people in corporate. It's anybody that's really looking to start shifting their mindset to grow intentionally with a flavor of agriculture, right? Because that's the industry that we all work in.
That's right.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
I
and I
love that.
presented this particular workshop to an audience of age from 14 all the way up to 85. So, like Casey said, yeah, this is not a one size fits all. None of us are one size fits all speakers that are coming either. So,
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. I'm so glad that we had a chance to shine a little bit of a light on this. Anything else you want to share around your story? Like I said, I don't want to give away too much because I know you're going to share that at the summit. But is there anything else that you want to share or leave with people who are listening to this episode around, like, just feeling worthy, believing in themselves? Where can they start if they can't make it to the summit? Is there something that you can leave with them?
yeah, I think Casey's got some great podcasts, out there. Make sure you're following her. You're obviously listening along. I'm always going to go back to my life really started to change when I started diving word before world and starting every day with scripture. That for me has been huge. And I want to say, I know it's hard to think that you are worthy and deserving of taking the time and making the investment and showing up in rooms. Like Casey said, as leaders and as mentors, we also have leaders and mentors leading us. But this is a space created for that. And I know even if you can't, get there in person, really finding someone that is at that next level. And I say next level, and I say that not meaning above you, but as someone who's maybe walked through the trials that you're in right now and that you see as a leader and reaching out to them. That's one thing I love so much about this industry, and Casey particularly, is there's no secret guarding, right? There's no gatekeeping here. We really want everyone to win and succeed. And so, really starting there and finding those people that you can relate to. But you are worthy of taking the time and you are deserving of going and filling your cup so that not for yourself and like stop thinking about it selfishly, right? When I had to start my journey, it's like, this isn't for me, this is for everyone around me. And if you're a leader in the agriculture world, you're going to go back and be able to lead your teams better, your family better, and yourself better by saying yes and coming to the AgriMinds Summit this March.
I did not pay her to say that, I swear. But
She
Lauren
did
is
not at all. None.
that was so good. I want you to tell people about your community. Do you mind doing a little bit of a shameless
Yeah,
plug here?
absolutely. I sure would. So yes, I lead what is called the Made for More community. And today I actually launched what is called the collective as well, which is kind of that next level step. But the Made for More community is, as the AgriMind Summit is for all, Made for More community is for women. And this is the place for rural rooted women and moms to go to be supported every single day and to start creating that foundation of healthy habits for themselves. This is really that ground level work, right? You're coming in, you're being equipped with feeling confident and making some changes for yourself and for your family. And then the collective, which I just launched, I opened today for waitlist members, and it will launch in January. But it is a 6 month small group mentorship opportunity for rural rooted women who are feeling that pull for more. Maybe not sure how to get there. Maybe you've built the vision board, and every single year you make the pretty board. By February, your kids have been sick. You've taken off work 3 days. You're like, I don't even know what's upside down. I haven't washed my hair. And that board slowly shifts to the back of your closet, and you get to the end of the year and you're at December and nothing got accomplished. This container and this collective is made for those women who are ready to tackle 2026 with worth and belief and aligned action and an execution plan to really make some stuff happen. And that is launching, and that is very small for only 10 women, but there's always a place to start. And so, the community is a very low level entry to get in, commit. I love Casey came in for a month. It's a come as you are, come for when you need it to be supported and come out. But again, women from, gosh, I don't even know. I think we're like 30 plus states in that community right now, many from the Midwest. And, we do live meetups as well. So that's a space if you're looking to be supported, you're kind of needing some of those rhythms into your life. I would love to connect with you. You can follow me on social media. So Instagram is my most prevalent. It's Lauren J. Bondy. And then also laurenjbondy.com. And I'm sure Casey will put those in the show notes, but you can connect with me there as well and see all of the offerings.
Yeah, thank you so much for plugging that, because what I just experienced in the 1 month that I was there is how much encouragement there was. I don't know how you show up daily. I don't know how you get that much in your cup to be able to pour into that community, but it was truly uplifting. Like I said, I wanted to experience it for myself. And the fact that it's kind of like this come and go, start, stop, because that's the thing I think a lot of us struggle with, especially within ag, this seasonality that comes with it is like
Yes.
there are some seasons where it's so busy, I can't commit to another thing. But then for others, the season is so busy that they need that extra support, inspiration, encouragement. And so, whether it's the flip side for you, but the ability to shut it off and turn it back on when you need it is, I think that flexibility is golden. And so I just want to give you a kudos for that, because a lot of places are,
Thank you.
no, once you're in, you're committing for a minimum amount of months.
So,
And, once you exit, you'll never get this price back. And it's just like this fear mongering. And it's like, I just want a community, and I don't want all the crap that comes
yeah,
along
no,
with it. Like, like,
yeah,
why does the entry have to be so hard? Like, let me just come in, get what I need. And and I think that's where a lot of people who do struggle with finding a community or finding support is like the barrier to entry is just such a
Yes.
challenge. And I think, I mean, same thing with like mental health. It's like somebody I was talking to the other day, they're like, yeah, I wanted to get in with this therapist, but it was like tons of paperwork. And then they had to wait to see if their insurance would cover it. He's like, I needed help that day. I don't want to wait for a month to get
Yes.
an appointment with you. He's like, I need help now. I need to talk to somebody today while it's relevant and fresh and while I'm willing to speak about it. Like those are the things that people need. And so I just commend you for the ease of entry there because a lot of the times when people say, I'm ready, you need to capture that now.
And I did. When I created this community, it was like, I just didn't want anyone to feel alone. I was that mom and I was alone and I was lonely. And you're right. Like when you finally at 11 p.m. and are rocking your supposed to be like bed trained toddler again for the 100th night in a row, and you're like, I just need other women who get this, and you're ready. And so yes, again, that, like Casey said, the community is a great place to start. It's really the foundation. And you can again find me on social media or my website, and all the information's there. I am always a DM away. I don't have any bots that do my social media. If someone replies, it's me. I'm not techie
Yeah.
enough to get all that set up. So
Yeah. Well, I absolutely adore you. And I think I told you before we like officially connected, like I followed you on social media and I was like, there's something just warm and welcoming and open armed about Lauren. And I don't know what it is, but when you find people like that, get in there because like they're just rare, and I wanna commend you for that, and I see how authentic you are, and I see how you show up online of, like, some days you're rocking it, and then other days it's like, "My mindset is shit today, but I'm showing up anyway, and here's what I'm doing to overcome it. Here's what I'm doing to combat it," and I think those are the things people need in real time. Those are the things people need in real life, not just this fancy looks great on paper thing, but, like, I'm
yeah,
struggling today. Give me something I can do today. And you give those very practical resources in your stories and stuff. And so, even if
yeah,
even if you don't come to the summit, even if you don't join the community, at least follow Lauren because man, it's just nice to have a ray of positive sunshine and not just like drama and just toxic BS in your feed, and she's just one of those lights. So I highly encourage you to follow her. And yes, I will put all of the details in the show notes. But thank you again so much for coming onto the podcast. And I am so pumped to meet you and hug you in March in Ohio at the AGRIMINDS Summit, March 24th, 25th. And there are still a couple of seats left for people if they decide that they want to join in. Payment options are available. But like I said, Lauren, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll see you in March.